Morning. Good morning. We're going to do this again. We're doing this again. We're doing this again. Oh boy. That's what happens. Sometimes things happen, right? Let me just delete this old video. Come back in the room. Come back in the room. Thank you for joining again. All right. I should be good. I think I had too many things open on my computer and with StreamYard when you have a whole bunch of things, open on your windows, that's what happens. So thank you. Thank you, Cheryl, for letting me know that. I so appreciate you, darling. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. All right, we're starting over. We're starting over, but that's okay. Um, we not gonna stop. The enemy not gonna stop it. Not gonna stop it. All right. So as I was saying before, we have this conference coming up November 4th, 5th, and 6th, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's coming up, and we want you to steal time away for yourself. You know already that the conference is in November. Take some time, go to an Airbnb, go to a friend's house, take some time away because the goal is for you to write a book over a weekend. Is it possible? Absolutely. You can write your book in a 3-day weekend. So as you come in, if you're seeing me for the first time or if you just happen to be streaming and I pop up, my name is Joan T. Randall. I am a speaker. I'm an author. I'm an independent publisher. But most importantly, I am a servant of God and I'm here to serve you. Good morning, Overseer. How are you? Good morning. Great to see you. We had to come off and come back in, but again, I just posed this morning. I really just want to come and have you ask me whatever questions come to mind. Any question? Good morning, Queen Esther. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate that. Any question that you have, any question about book or books, any question about business, any question about me, personal, any question that you may have or advice that you need, if you're in need of prayer, this morning, I'm just availing myself to you. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of, you know, kind of conversation about anything. I just want to avail myself to you and be able to answer whatever questions you have. That means you got to put something in the chat for me to answer. Or else this is not going to be a good broadcast. So let me know what questions you have for me, and I would be extremely happy to answer. A reminder that tomorrow we have Donna Hicks Izard that's going to be on with me. Tomorrow we're going to talk about one more opportunity. That's the title for tomorrow. Today, I think entitle this "The Power of One More Answer." And so that is why I need you to ask me questions so I can answer it. Again, we have new collection at Victorious You Press in the shop. So just some public service announcement that I want to give you. We have some new things in our shop. You can go to victoriousupress.com, go to the top of the tab and hit the shop button. We have some new stationery. We started out with note cards, greeting cards, spiral bound notebooks, cell phone cases. We have all of those in the shop. We have new t-shirts, we have bucket hats, we have backpacks, not heavy ones, right? Really light kind of type canvasy type of backpack. So there's a lot of stuff over there that is new. We have some great new t-shirt sayings. No bars can hold the force of the pen. We also have, write as if your legacy depends on it, and some other sayings that's over there. So go over there and check it out. I would love for you to support that initiative as well. And if you use the code launch 20, LAUNCH 20, you'll be able to get 20% off everything in the shop um, for the next few days. UNCH launch 20 is the code. Also, we have a marketing webinar that's coming up on August 6th, right? And it's all about storytelling for selling. That's the title of it, storytelling for selling. And it's really helping you to understand how to market yourself, market your business, market your book, market your service, market your nonprofit, market your ministry, market whatever it is, so that you can gain the audience of the people who is attracted to you and who God has called you to serve. Because we all have something to give, we all have something to share, we all have an experience that someone can benefit from. So whether it is a book, whether it is a service, whether it is a ministry, whether it is just inspiration, motivation, whatever it is, I want to share with you how you can story tell to sell, right? Because that's what marketing is. And that's August the 6th from 11 to 1:30. It's $69 for the webinar. So if you're interested, the ooh, I love these questions are coming. I love questions. Yes, 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 yes. I love questions. I see them rolling in. I'm so excited, right? So again, I'm going to start answering the questions. I'm excited. So the marketing webinar is it's tinyurl. I think I'm going to URL tinyurl.com / what did I call it? Marketing. I mean, RKETING marketing BYP is where you go to register. Oh, thank you so much. I think Angie did that. Hey, Dion. Good morning, my darling. It is nice to see you. So I am going to bring this up. Good morning, Elder Randall. Which form of writing do you prefer when you are reading a story? So I'm not sure if you mean what kind of writing or if you mean the genre of writing. So I'm going to just say, first of all, I'm going to just say from this part, I'm going to talk about which form of writing do I prefer, and then I'm going to talk about which type of genre I prefer. I prefer nonfiction. That's the genre. Because nonfiction is usually a story or something that has to do with what is real, right? That's the difference between nonfiction and fiction. So, which is kind of weird, right? When you hear nonfiction, you want to think it's not true, and when you hear fiction, you want to think it's true, but it's the opposite. Nonfiction is actually real life. It's self-help. It's motivation. It's memoirs. It's autobiography. It's experiences. It's poetry. Those are what's called nonfiction. And then fiction is things that are actually created and made up with characters and things of that nature. So that's the difference between nonfiction and fiction. I love nonfiction because when I read, I want to be able to get something that I can find inspiration from. And as a publisher, I am a specialist in the nonfiction genre. Now, from a writing perspective, and maybe Dion, you can let me know if I answered what you were asking for. From a writing perspective, I love when things are written in first person. And when I say first person, is writing as telling your story as you, sharing the information as you. Some people write in third person, and writing in third person means you are writing a story or a letter or a piece that is telling the story of someone else. And what I notice times, some people write in third person when the story is difficult for them, or they do not want anyone to recognize that the story was about them. Both are acceptable. first or third person. The one thing, though, sometimes writers or authors need to be careful of is not starting your story or your book in first person and then switching to third person. If you're going to write, you either write in first person, which means you're writing the story as if it is you, or you're going to write in third person, which means you're telling the story on behalf of someone else. So, Dion, I hope I answered the question for to make sure that I did it both from the writing as first or third or from the genre of writing. Um, so thank you for answering. I did mean form, but the added genre. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes. So that's what I like first person because I relate to a story that's being told. I also relate to a story that someone else is telling as well, as long as I can relate to it. Another thing about the form of writing is I like when I can follow the story, right? I like when there is transition in the story. So if you're writing for the first time, you have to make sure that you are transitioning. And I'm going to give you an example of what transition mean. For example, you're telling me a story of your life, right? A memoir. You know the story intimately. I, as the reader, do not know the story. So if you're going to go from your life as a child, right, and then you jump into the life of an adult, I need a transition. What happened from the life of the child to the adult? What happened in the middle? So transition allows me to see the leap from one um, thought to the next. So you have to be able to show me the pattern. How did you move from this part to this part? If you were married and your husband left and now you're in another marriage, you have got to tell me, give me a transition. You were first married, you and your husband have a difficult marriage and your husband left, don't just start telling me about the next husband. I need to understand after my husband left, it was a difficult period for me. There was a period where I was not dating, there was a period when I was single, and then I went to this place and I met this guy and a relationship started. So give me something that transitions me, that let me know as a reader, oh, so after that husband left, you didn't just jump into another marriage. You are telling me the transition as to how you got there, right? So that's just one example that I wanted to share. So as I'm reading stories, sometimes what authors or writers, especially new authors, fail to do is transition from one point to the next point. All right. So I hope I answered that. Dion, my cousin, thank you so much for jumping on and being here. Good morning. Good morning to everyone that is joining this morning. I am answering questions, whatever. Questions about my personal me, questions about books, questions about business, questions about advice, prayer, anything. I am here this morning to answer one more question for you. One more answer is what it is. One more answer. So the next question I want to go to is my overseer, my pastor, Elder Randall. For someone who is thinking they are not a writer, how do you begin the journey of writing? I will say this. Write, anybody can write. You don't have to have an English major background to write. You just have to have something you want to convey to other people that you know can help them. I will also say this, like I talked about earlier with fiction, there's a lot of people in the world that love fiction, right? Which is stories that are made up with character and plots and resolution and all of that, right? People like fiction because fiction takes people away from where they are and carries them into this make believe world. So fiction is amazing. right? Fiction is amazing. And there's all forms of fiction. There's youth fiction, there's children fiction. There are things like romance, there are things, there's a all bunch of genre in fiction. And there's a lot of people out there that love fiction because you read it. There's, books like spy, there's books, drama, there's all these different fiction genre that people love because when they're reading it, it's taking them somewhere, and this imaginary place, right? Like when I think about Harry Potter is an incredible fiction series. And the person, the writer of Harry Potter, really, the way she started was writing for her children. She was just writing these make believe thing for her children. And then she put it in a book, and then it became this huge box office movie time after time after time, right? And there's a lot of people that like those type of books. I love some of them too. So I wanted to just share with you that even if you're writing fiction, people get comfort, enjoyment out of fiction as well. So back to how do you begin the journey of writing? The very first thing that you have to think about is that you want to do it, right? Writing, you don't just get up one day and say, I want to write. I'm not a writer. I have a story and I want to write it, but I don't know how to get it done. And then you just leave it. It takes a certain level of discipline, and you have to have the mindset to know that you're ready to write. Because here's the thing about writing: you've got to set a time or a schedule that you can dedicate to writing, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, writing is not a part of your normal day to day activity. So it's going to take effort on your part to write and get it done. If you don't put it on a schedule, your book will never get done. If you are not intentional and not set aside the time to write, it will never get done. So to start the journey, you have to tell yourself that this is a book I want to write. First thing, give yourself a timeline. When do I want to get this done? When? How long is this going to take me? Because if you don't give yourself a specific timeline, it will never get done. My recommendation to you is, if you're serious about it, reach out to someone that can help you. Because once you have that accountability, once you have that person that is helping you along or pushing you, the chances are you will get it done. So the whole journey of writing starts with the seed, right? A seed is planted. So the seed of the book is planted. You know that you want to get this book done. Set some time on your calendar as to how long. Reach out to someone that's a publisher or someone that's written books, because if you're self-published, you may not want a publisher, right? But you have to be disciplined and set aside a time as to when to write. And then you start thinking about, what is this that I have to share with the world? Is it my story? Is it my expertise? Is it motivation? Is it inspiration? Is it self-help? What is it? What is it that I want to write, right? And once you identify what it is, then you start lay out your structure, right? And you begin the process. And that's pretty much it. You just have to tell yourself you want to get it done, figure out what it is you want to write, put it on a schedule, and get started. So, Overseer, I hope I answered your question correctly or acceptable. Thank you for answering. Okay, that was Dion. Happy Wednesday, Pat. It is so nice to see you. Good morning from Jamaica, man. Okay, let's see. What is Dion, good points. Yes, ma'am. All right. Hey, Dennis Thomas, nice to see you. All right, come on. I want more questions. That was two. What else do you have for me? Ask me something else so I can answer your questions. Um, trying to see if there's anybody else that is asking a question. All right, so let me just tell you about how I got started with my first book, and then hopefully you guys can drop some questions in the chat. You can ask me something about personal too, and you can ask me about business, or you can ask me how do I get into books to business, and I'll share that with you too. Or ask me, are you writing a book? And want some tips on the ideas for your books. All right, here is another question. See, I'm loving questions. Dion said, is there a number of characters to best stick to? No, there's not a certain number. It depends on, the book you're writing, and it depends on what do you want the plot to be. If it's a fiction book, then you have to build it up, right? So there has to be in a fiction book, you have to have characters, you have to have the main plot, you have to have the theme, you have to have the conflict, and then you have to have how it is resolved, right? And that could be with 3 people, that could be with 5 people, that could be with 10 people. The thing about characters, though, you want to be careful that you're not confusing your audience, because every character you bring into a book, you've got to give a little description of them as to who they are, right? So you have to be cautious about how many. If it's a fiction book, probably you want to stick with 8 to 10, but it depends on the type of book you are writing as well. In a nonfiction, which is where my specialty is, it can be just about you. Like, you can write a book about you, your story, and you may or may not bring anybody else in. You may just be chronicling some things that you experienced and some things that you went through. Now, no matter who you are, there's always people that are going to impact your life within whatever story, right? So if you're going to introduce something because someone helped you as the main character, or someone um, supported you, or you met someone, or there was, a family member, then you can bring them in and just give a brief description about who they are. So for example, if I'm writing about my childhood and I want to talk about my mom, my father, my brothers, and my sisters, I am going to say my father was Rodolphe, right? He was an incredible guy. This is where he worked, this is what he did. My mom was a homemaker. She stayed at home. She was quiet. She was reserved. My brother was, so and so. And you give their names, right? In writing, also, you never want to say he, her, him, she. No pronouns, right? Give them a specific name. I can't tell you how many books I see come across my desk, right? Especially manuscripts before they're completed, that people will talk about someone that they're introducing in their story. And because they don't want to use a name, they say, my child's father, or my child's grandmother. And then at some part within that writing, they switch to she. So when it gets to she, who is that she? Is she still the child's grandmother, or is that a different she? Or because you don't want to use the person's name, you say, my baby father, or the father of my child. And then at some point you call him, right? You lose your readers, right? I would not finish reading that, but I'll just close that book and put it down. What you want to do is give everyone a name, so that you're always being able to refer to that person's name, right? So if it's your child's father and it's John, then you're calling him John. You can change the name if you want to, you know disguise the identity or the name of a person, especially in nonfiction, but you always want to give them a name. Another thing about writing is, whatever genre, fiction or nonfiction, you want to make sure you're using dialogue. What is dialogue? Dialogue is conversation, right? You cannot write and say, and at one point she said to me so and so and so, and you're always trying to give more sentence structure. as opposed to dialogue. We want to see dialogue. Jane said, comma, open quotation. What are you talking about? Question mark, close quotation, right? So you always want to have dialogue. You want to see people talking back and forth, right? In whatever work you do, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So instead of just paragraphs or structure repeating things, you always want to make sure that there is dialogue. Another thing about writing that I also want to talk about is there is passive versus active. And well, good morning, Lori. Nice to see you. And passive means um, versus active. Let me give you an example. I hope that what I'm doing is okay. Very passive, right? Because it's not, it's I hope. I hope is passive because you don't know. Here's active. I know what I'm doing is great. That's it. Boom. Active versus passive, right? So as we are editing books, things that people write, we're always trying to look at active versus passive. Passive is giving too much probability. Active is very direct and to the point, right? So that's another thing. So I hope I answered your question about number of characters. You don't want to make it too many that people lose focus of who they are. It can be confusing if you are a reader and you're reading somebody's work and there's so many that you can't keep track of them. So that's very important. Another thing too is when writers write, they write from their experience, they write from their ideas, they write from their creativity. But when a person is reading, they're reading from a totally different perspective, right? So that is why it is so important to have an incredible editor, because the editor edits from the reader's perspective and not from the writer's perspective. When the editor is editing, they're editing because they're thinking about how is the reader going to be able to receive this book. So they have to edit from the reader's perspective and not from the writer's perspective. And that is why most times when you get your work well edited, there's a lot of markups or red lines or red, because the editor wants to make sure that any person or anyone that picks up your book understands your book from their perspective. And you know how people are. I can read a book and get one idea or one takeaway, and somebody else reads the book and get a completely different takeaway, although it is the same exact story. So it is important that you have an incredible editor when you write so that they can polish it in a way that no matter who reads the book, the story remains the same. The takeaway can be different, but the reader, who is the end user, understands it and can follow the story all the way through. So I hope that answers that question. All right. So let's see. There are so many books. How do we stand out to make the sales we desire? Love, love, love that question. It is all about the marketing. That's it. It's the marketing. I don't care how many nonfiction books are out there. I don't care how many memoirs are out there. I don't care how many what is out there. Everyone will not buy your book. Won't. So you have to market to an audience that is your ideal reader. That's the success of the book. And what is your ideal reader? The person that you are writing that book for. I know that sounds strange, but every author who writes for a specific reader, because they know that they can't write for everyone. They will never, ever get the result they're looking for, because everyone won't buy it. Family won't buy your book because they may not be your audience. And when I say audience, I'm talking ideal reader, and I'll break that down a little bit more. Friends may not buy your book because they may not be your audience. Who you've got to come up with a image of the person that you're writing for, an avatar of the person you're writing for. And here's why I say this. For nonfiction, and I'm sticking to nonfiction because that's my specialty. For nonfiction, right, you're either writing a self-help book, you're writing a memoir, you're writing a devotional, you're writing a story that, you've gone through an expertise, an experience, a message, a memoir, whatever it is, right? You are writing from a place of, let's just say a memoir, for example. You're writing from a place of experience, right? Or a place of um, something that you have gone through. Now, there are people out there that have gone through the same exact thing that you have gone through, but they're waiting on you to write that book so that they can have the resolution that you had. How did you resolve the issue? Or how were you able to get over? Or how did you turn your pain to purpose? Right? And so that person who had a similar experience to you will buy your book immediately. That is your audience. Most times, what I tell my author is the book you write, you're targeting it to an audience that need the information that you have. If it is a self-help book and you're writing about overcoming fear, right? You're writing it to an audience who experience fear probably the same way you experienced it and you were able to get over it, right? And so you've got to find that specific audience. Now, you may say to me, Joan, how do you find that audience? It is in the marketing. You cannot write a book and not visibly share the book, right? And I hear authors say all the time, I'm going to pay someone to do a PR, public relations on my book. Well, let me say this to you. Yes, you can always pay to have somebody, do PR with your book, right? Do a press release or do public relations on your book, but they are not you. They were not the ones that experienced what you wrote about. They cannot sell your book like you. They cannot guarantee you sales like how you can guarantee yourself sales. And why am I saying this? When you sell yourself, when you market yourself and the book that you write, you are telling the audience from a place of experience that this is what I went through and this is how I overcame. Now you're piquing my interest because I'm hearing it from you. I relate to you. Humans relate to stories. And that's why I say marketing is storytelling. For me to share this book that I have that's upcoming, I have to tell you I wrote this book because I wrote this book so that I can. I wrote this book in order to. So now I'm hearing from your heart why you wrote the book, right? So now I'm creating this audience based on those who have had a similar experience to me. And that is how I'm going to sell my book. That's it. You have to be uniquely you. You sell, you stand out based on how you market your book. If you write a book and you wait until the book is ready to hit the shelves for you to start talking about this book, you'll never get the sales you desire. And I can give you myself as an example. My book, Bags in the Attic, which chronicles part one of my story of overcoming domestic violence, I was marketing that book for years before the book even came out. I didn't know what the cover of the book was going to be. I just put a ladder against the house and says Bags in the Attic. I marketed that book with that cover for 2 years. And I would seed what was in the book. What do I mean by seeding? I was dropping nuggets of parts of the story every day on social media. Every day on social media. I would just take little excerpts out of what I remembered. I don't even know if some of those excerpts are in the book, but I would drop things like, he looked at me or he kicked me down the stairs or some of those experiences, and I would seed it. I would drop it. So I piqued the interest of a lot of people that wanted the book. And so by the time I was able to drop the book, there was so much interest in the book that it blew off the charts. exceeded my expectation, completely exceeded. 1,000 copies of the ebook was downloaded the day I launched it. So again, it goes back. You stand out because of how you show up. That's the difference. That's how you make the sales you desire. Selling yourself, selling your story, selling your visibility, because that's human connection. And that's what drives book sales. Notice something with big actors and movie stars who write books, right? They go on every TV show to promote that book. It's marketing. And they're marketing them. Yes, the book is why they're doing these shows, but they're marketing themselves. So that's how you stand out and make the sales that you desire. And I hope that answered your question. How do you know your true calling in business or in ministry? Wow. So, Jackie, that's a great question. It's in your heart. It is in your heart. It is what you feel passionate about. It is what drives you. It is what keep you up at night. It is the thing that you want to have a solution. It's a problem that you know you have a solution to. That is the true calling. What is in your heart? Let me tell you what my true calling is to impact the lives of people. How can I make a difference in someone's life? That's my calling. That is my calling. That is my ministry. And it just so happens that I'm using it. I'm doing that through helping people write their stories. But it never changes. Even when I was in retail, even when I spent 25 years in retail, even in retail, how can I impact the life of an associate to go from being an associate to a um, assistant manager, and from an assistant manager to a manager, from a manager to a director, from a director. You know what I mean? It's all, how do I impact someone and help them move to the next step? So it doesn't matter where I found myself. My calling is to touch people's lives, to help people grow, to help people become better, to help people do things that they have never done before, because I can almost see the best in them outside of themselves or outside of them seeing it for themselves. So, and that's a passion that's deep seated in my heart. I was 6 years old when I was teaching people how to write and spell their names and how to pronounce their names correctly and how to memorize the 66 books of the Bible. I was a little girl when I was doing that. And it's the same thing I do now. Coming on Facebook for 31 days in the month of January or July is exactly that. My calling is to touch lives. My calling is to help others. My calling is to teach people how to get to their next level. And so you feel it. You feel the burning. And it doesn't put me in a box, right? So uh, being a publisher helps me do that. Being a part of a nonprofit helps me do that. Being with Nehemiah Project helps me do that, right? Coming and doing these broadcasts helps me do that. So it's the thing, my true calling is to impact lives, to touch people's lives so people can see the God in me and help them become better, help them see the God in themselves as well, and make them disciples, you know, make them believers, make them see the good in humanity and want to be that themselves. So your true calling, whether it's in business, in ministry, in mission, in whatever, is what you feel led to do. The thing that, because like sometimes I wake up and I say, God, who can I impact today? Whose life can I touch today? Who can I make a difference in? I can't tell you how many times I've done anthologies with a number of people, and there's always someone in that anthology that is in there free. free. No, didn't pay to be in it. I can't tell you how many times I do my books to business and beyond, and there's someone in that group that did not pay, because that's how I give. I give back. That is how I serve them. That is how I give back to what God has done for me. And it's every day. No, hundreds of people whose life I've touched in one way or the other. That's my true calling. And how it is manifested, or how it happens, is through, publishing. It's through ministry. It's through nonprofits. Exactly. So I hope that answered your question, Jackie. Um, we'll use that. You stand out, and oh yeah, you stand out when you show up, man, and show up for yourself. Yeah, that's the greatest thing. Good morning, BB. Nice to see you, honey. Good morning, Esconda. Hey, Sister Pat. Nice to see you. I love these questions. These were some powerful questions that you just ask of me, and I know I can be long-winded. Yeah, so forgive me for that. Any other questions? Let's see what time it is. 8:55. Ooh, yeah. All right. So I think I have done we'll use that. You stand out. Any other questions? I think that's it. I think my time is up. I know I had to cut off and restart the broadcast, but thank you for jumping on and asking me. I hope I have answered every question that you asked this morning. I want to make sure that nobody, and even after the broadcast is over, if there's still, yes, it helps to understand me. Yeah, definitely. And even after the broadcast, hey, hello to my YouTube folks. And even after the broadcast, still you can ask questions, and I will be able to come in and answer for you. I pray this morning that something that I said today would touch your heart, touch your mind, will help you rethink some things, will help you move forward in doing some things, so that you can, continue to be the best of who God has called you to be. We all have it inside of us. We're all equipped. We all are equipped. We're all selected. We're all significant. We're all supply. There's nobody that's better than anyone in the eyes of God. Yes, someone might be at a different position in their life because of whatever, and you may not be in that position, but baby, you're in the position that you are supposed to be in. Don't let fear, don't let doubt, don't let indecisiveness, insecurities, anxiety prevent you from just being you and the best of you. You have it in you. The one thing I know is that you have to take action. You must take action. You must. And taking action sometimes means fighting to take that action. You've got to fight with your own self sometimes, because there's this internal thing that when it is uncomfortable, you want to not do it. But you've got to fight through the discomfort. You got to fight with your own self. Has everybody ever experienced that? You know you want to get this done, but there's something pulling you back from getting it done. And every day you wake up feeling annoyed that you haven't started it, but there's this thing pulling you back. And there's this force, the force that's pulling you back. But here's what I want to share with you. Your mental power is stronger than any external force. Your mental power. Yet your mental power will fight with you, because your mental power will say don't, and then the other side is saying do. Don't do. Don't do. And you have got to be the one to say, all right, you know what? I need to show up. I need to show up authentic. I need to show up in my truest form. I need to show up with all my skills. I need to show up with all my gifts. I had a conversation with my daughter on Sunday, which was very interesting. And I never looked at it from that perspective. We were talking about using your gifts and talents, and that it will make room for you. And we were having a conversation about a young lady who has the voice of an angel and who does not sing now, right? But when she was younger, she would sing. She was in the lead in plays, the lead on Broadway, and all this stuff. And I was saying, I was having a conversation. I said, wow, she's not using her talent right now. She's not doing anything with it. And then my daughter said this to me, which made me pause and think about it. And I want to ask you, what do you guys think about this? My daughter said, well, Mom, she may have already used and her gifts and talent when she was doing, Broadway, when she was doing the play. Maybe at that moment in time, she used her gift and talent and it has impacted lives. And then my daughter said, there's a time and a place for everything. She kind of turned my own stuff back at me. There's a time and place for everything. So I don't think it's necessary that she needed to sing for her whole life. Maybe it was just in the moment. Maybe it was that for that particular season that she left her mark. And as a result of leaving her mark for that season, she impacted lives, and people who saw her, was inspired to be able to do the same thing. So that caused me some pause because I never thought about it that way. But she might be right, because there's a season for everything, So be careful that you don't let your season slip away from you, right? Make sure you are walking out, doing everything that you can to bless others and impact the lives that God has called you to serve. That's all I have today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And I'll be here with Donna Izar talking about one more opportunity. Love you guys. Bye.